Okay, so this is part 2, and I'm just going to show you a different example with some bigger numbers so that we can talk about the way that this works. So if I have 24 and I'm subtracting 7, what you have to remember is that this is a positive 24. So I have 24 of these little positive signs, and I'm adding it together with a negative 7, which means that I have negative 7 of these guys. But it can be hard to want to write out all of these pluses. Okay, so I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 pluses. And I have 7 negatives. Who wants to do that for every math problem? Not me. So what we need to look at is we need to say, okay, well, when the signs are different, this one's a positive number, this one's a negative number, and they're being added together. So when the signs are different, one's a negative and one's a positive, you're really actually subtracting. So 24 minus 7 is what we've done in, like, 4th grade, is, now I can't think, is 17. And what we have to decide is it going to be a positive or is it going to be a negative? Well, if you look at our symbols, you can see we have a whole lot more positives than we have negatives. So if we made 0 pairs, we would get rid of all of our negatives and we would still have the positives left, which means that this 17 is a positive. Because this number here, the starting number, was bigger, and so there are more positives than negatives, so our answer ends up being positive. But if we had an example, and I'm going to go up to the top of my paper because I ran out of space, is example 6, and what if we had negative 24 plus a positive 7? Well, we have 24 of these little negative guys, and we would have 7 positives only. Well, which one has more? There are more of these negatives than this positive. So when we make the 0 pairs, we end up, just try to do it for you here, we end up getting rid of all of our negatives and being left with, or getting rid of all of our positives are gone and ending up with negatives. So our answer must be a negative answer. So now you just have to subtract. 24 minus 7 is 17, and our answer ends up being negative 17. So I'd like you to try one. We're going to try example 7, and the number is negative 53 plus a 6, plus a positive 6. So if you think about it, without drawing out negative 53 pieces and positive 6 pieces, which one has more? Are there more negatives or are there more positives? Well, there's more negatives, so we know our answer is going to be a negative. And 53, because they're different, we know we're subtracting. So at 53 minus 6 ends up giving you 47. And so you have negative 47. Okay? And our last problem for the day is example 8. We're going to do it when we have negative 48 and we're adding a negative 24. So if you look at this, you're adding and you have negatives and negatives. So you have a whole bunch of negatives here, 48 negatives. And then you have 24 negatives. Do you have any positives? No, you only have negatives. So your answer must be negative. You only have those little shapes. And so if you only have those little shapes, then you're going to say, all right, well, I have 48 of those shapes, and now I have 24 of those shapes. How many of those shapes do I have? I have 8 plus 4, and so if I have to write it down, I would come over here next to my paper and I would write my math down this way, and I would say 8 plus 4 is 12, carry my 1, and 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 1 is 72. So I have 72 negatives, and I box my answer. Okay, and that's your math for tonight.